I'm sorry I'm not available, but I didn't hear from you, so I made other plans. Why do you care? Okay, yeah, I do have a date. Look, it's really none of your business, but what was I supposed to do? All right, well, have a good Friday. Bye. Loveless generation. Loveless generation. All fucking with our lovers' heads. Generation. He thinks I'm on a date. I'm gonna film the Melodrama review. Have you ever been through a breakup that completely shattered you to pieces? Or do you remember when you were 19 and you went through your first breakup and you were completely shattered and you almost were embarrassed to be that heartbroken by it? Like you actually wanted to die and you didn't know who to go to or who to turn to, or even your first crush, how intense it was, and how once you experience that, you're never going to have that moment again. You're never going to have that feeling again. You're never going to have that intensity of both love and heartbreak. We all know that moment, or we're all going through that moment, or we all are going to have that moment. But it happens a lot in our late teens and early 20s. And often we're embarrassed by it. Melodrama encapsulates that. Melodrama is the embodiment of that moment in time. When Lorde wrote this album, she said that she knew that she was 19 years old and that she was never going to experience these feelings again. And she wanted an album that just said, okay. And what I love about this album is that it validates that experience. It validates that experience. And not only does it validate that experience, it also takes you through the growth that you go through based on that experience. And it does it in such a beautiful, poetic way. So often when people talk about this album, they talk about the production, which is great. Lorde worked with Jack Antonoff on this album. But today I'm going to be diving more into the lyrics. And so Lorde had said in an interview, there was this element of like when you're 20, everything feels like the biggest deal in the world and the most permanent thing in the world. I'm like, I feel terrible and there's no way I'm going to feel like this. This is forever. I'm heartbroken forever. And to me, that is all those emotions. There is such a melodrama to feeling that way and being so gripped by the emotion. Whether it's being so happy or so annoyed or so sad or whatever. I was like, it's a good name for an album that you write when you're 19, 20. And that's what I love about this album. Lorde has such an awareness that she's in this particular moment in time. She wrote it when she's very young. It's not a reflective album. It's an album that's written in the moment. It's almost like a time capsule that you're putting in these objects in while you're going through those experiences. You're not waiting for the moment to pass. You're going through the moment and you're expressing it as you're going through it. And that's so evident here. I feel like this album takes you through a journey from beginning to end. You really see Lorde's growth here. You really see like this coming of age moment. I would even say one of the reasons why I really enjoy this album is it feels like I'm watching a movie. When I listen to this album, I feel like I'm watching like a coming of age movie, like a Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, or some of the movies that we watched as a child where somebody goes through this relationship or this big experience in their life and they come out of it in the other side, more grown up, more mature. And there's a sadness to it and there's a nostalgia that they're clinging on to, but there's also so much growth and so much experience from those moments. And I feel like this album is the music version of those movies. Lorde says that this album takes place, the main part of this album takes place at a party. And we can really feel that. There's this pulse in this entire album coming from that central theme. And one of the things I really liked about this album is there's a movement to this album. There's the lyrics have a lot of movement to them. They take you on a ride. You feel like you're on a roller coaster, just being carried through these experiences. You don't feel like you're reflecting on these experiences. You feel like you're actually going through the motions of this experience. And so I'm gonna go song by song and give you my thoughts on every song on the album. Some of the writing techniques I really love. We're definitely gonna dive into the writing. And then I'm gonna end on my ranking. And we might have to fight in the comment section, but that's fine. I would love to know what this album means to you. What time of your life did this album come out? And what do you wish more people knew about this album? Leave it in the comment section below. So, without any further ado, let's do my song by song analysis. So the first song I'm gonna talk about is Green Light.
We ordered different drinks at the same bar.
Now, a little bit of context on this song. This is the lead single for Melodrama. And she said something really interesting about this song. So she actually consulted with Max Martin. If you don't know who Max Martin is, he is a very famous producer who worked with some of the most famous artists in the 90s. He worked with Britney Spears. Pretty much any big song in the early 2000s, Max Martin had some part of. And so Lorde had actually consulted with Max Martin about Green Light being her lead single. This is what it says in the interview. She says, she turned down Max Martin's advice. Though Lorde kept her circle tight, she did seek out pop production wizard Max Martin's advice about the melodic structure of the album's lead single, Green Light, because his opinion is widely regarded as the best in pop. Martin called the song incorrect songwriting, which Lorde said wasn't an insult, just a statement of fact. Lorde also thinks the final result is a strange piece of music, which is why she trusted her gut and stuck with the original version she and Antonoff had for the song. Now, not only does that say a lot about the single, but that also is a testament on why this pop album has such a longevity to it and sounds fresh so many years later. There's a lot of music that we hear on the radio that follows this very simple pop structure, not only melodically, but also lyrically. The thing about Green Light is it doesn't follow that. It starts a little bit as a bang. There's a lot going on production-wise, but there's also a lot going on lyric-wise. We have a lot of show, not tell in this song. Now, if you don't know what show, not tell is, it's when you show someone what's going on instead of telling somebody what's going on. And we get that in that first line when she says, I do my makeup in somebody else's car. Now, think about how much you already know by hearing that lyric. I mean, immediately upon hearing that, you know that something is going on. In a way, it's kind of foreshadowing the rest of the album, that there's been a change, right? There's been a shift. You know, the routine has been disrupted. She doesn't have to tell us that she's uncomfortable and that she's acclimating to this new experience. She shows us by what she's doing. She shows us that she's uncomfortable. You know, she's doing her makeup in a stranger's car. You know, she's going to the same bar she used to go to, but, you know, she's showing us that she's not going with the same person anymore. So automatically, we already know that this is going to be an album that talks about a shift in a dynamic in her life. That this song is really showing us the entire theme of the album. It's thematically the entire album in a song. Like, that is the whole song. And so that initial lyric is so important. And like Lorde says, thematically, the partying experience is at the center of this album. And it is the growth of her and all the individuals and all the characters that are in this album, because through these parties, right, she's navigating all these vulnerable emotions, and the alcohol is in the partying. It's not even just the alcohol and the partying. This is something I can't really put in words, but when you're very, very young, early 20s, late teens, even maybe a little later than that, that first experience you have of going out and intermingling with people, it's almost like the social center of your life, meeting people at these parties and these gatherings. You know, it's like a town hall of sorts. You know, it's where everything kind of happens, everything kind of comes out at this space. This space is at the center of it all. So it's not even like partying in like a we're gonna get drunk and wild. It's almost like partying as like a coming undone moment. It's where things just kind of start to intermingle. And then we get into this next lyric, which is one of my favorites in the entire song. I know about what you did and I want to scream the truth. She thinks you love the beach. You're such a damn liar. It just captures that moment where you see the person that you used to love moving on, but they're lying. Like, they are lying in these streets. You're gonna try and pull that on that person? Like, I know the truth. And it's so concise. That's what I love about the writing. It's so concise that you know what she's talking about, but it's just quick. It's quick. And although this is the main song in the album and it did kind of get repetitive because it was always playing, I still think it's a really great song. And it just immerses you into the moment so well. There's a lot of symbolism in this song. You know, the great white shark and the green light, those are all symbols in this song. So she says, I'm waiting for it, that green light I wanted. And the green light is a traffic light metaphor, and I think that's important. Obviously, we know green light means go. But the fact that she's waiting at a traffic light, she knows that she's going to get to the green light. She knows that the green light is going to come. So I feel like it goes back to that theme I was talking about at the beginning of the album, where it's like she has this awareness that she's going through this experience. And I feel like the fact that she knows that she's at a traffic light and that the green light is going to come means that she knows she just has to go through this experience. That it's just going to be the first breakup, that she's going to get there. The green light's going to come. And so that feeling of unfamiliarity definitely lingers in that line. Sometimes I wake up in a different bedroom. I whisper things, the city sings them back to you. And she's kind of talking about her life as a celebrity and the fact that she's constantly in this state of being in familiar surroundings.
Like you, that you said that you would always be in love, but you're not in love no more. Did it frighten you?
There's also kind of a franticness in this song. There's a rush, and it kind of goes back to that movement thing I was talking about. There's a lot of movement in this song. We're getting kind of zoomed through all of these memories. You can almost feel your mind going through all these memories of her with her love, where she talks about, did it frighten you, how we kissed when we danced on the light of floor. Great imagery there. And that's why I think Green Light is such a great intro track. For me, it's almost like a forward of the entire album in this one song. This is my top, one of the top. I'm not gonna tell you my ranking yet, but this is up there.
God, I'm clean out of air in my lungs, it's all gone.
Stray with me. Oh, immaculate, immaculate. Okay, let's talk about Sober, because this is, for me, definitely one of the best songs on the album. I'm so sorry, like one of the best songs on the album. I'm not telling you my ranking yet until the end of the video. When I listen to Sober, it gives me a nocturnal feeling. You know, there's something about it that feels very nocturnal. I feel like I'm in the darkness and things are coming to light. You know, the light, midnight, lose my mind that we hear at the beginning of the song. That's exactly what it is. When it's midnight, things change. Things get a little bit out of control, right? So one of the things that Lorde said when she wrote this album is that she wanted to create a world for this album. This song really embodies that to me. I feel like Sober takes you somewhere. To me, it feels nocturnal. It feels like things are coming alive at night. It feels like alcohol is a bit of that central theme that's causing this unraveling. And it's frantic. And it's doing that thing I was talking about in the beginning of this review. There's a lot of movement in this album. There's a lot of rushing through things. There's a speed that you feel happening both production-wise and lyric-wise. That initial sound that kind of pokes through your ear as you first hear the song. Light, midnight, lose my mind. Light, midnight, lose my mind. At first, you don't even know what she's saying. Let's be honest. I didn't know. I don't know if you knew, but I did not hear what she was saying. But there was this piercing element to it that immediately grabbed your attention. You're like, well, something's happening, something's happening, something's happening. And she has such a instinctual ability of using words to capture this lightning type experience. It has this stunning awareness to it, and it's a bit of an adrenaline rush when you hear it. Don't you feel like there's kind of adrenaline shooting through your veins? You know, at night when the liquor flows, things are happening, things are coming out, things are coming to the surface. But what's haunting them is the next day, is the sobriety. You know, what's gonna happen when we're sober? We're not gonna face it right now, but what's gonna happen the next night when we have to clean up the dishes? And that's why I think Sober 2 is the next night. I love the constant questioning. I love the tension that builds in this song lyrically. It's like everything's perfect now, but what are we gonna do when we're sober? You know, this isn't real. This isn't this is a fantasy. Here's a couple lyrics that I really love. But my hips have missed your hips, so let's get to know the kicks. Will you sway with me, go astray with me? What's really great about these lyrics and what makes them poetic is the rhymes, the rhyme schemes. They vary a lot in this song. You know, you get a rhyme in the middle of the stanza, you get a line at the end of the line. You know, the rhyme scheme changes. First you get a rhyme every other line, and then sometimes you get a rhyme every single line. And I think that's important. I think it's important because it kind of just reiterates what I was talking about, where there's a lot of movement being created in this album. And one of the ways that you do that is varying your rhyme scheme. You know, people don't know exactly where the rhymes are going to go, where the lyrics are going to go, but there's still a flow to it. There's still this kind of feeling of fluidity, of poetry, because there is a structure to it. It just constantly changes. It's just constantly changing throughout the entire song. The other thing I love about the lyrics in this track is how Lorde is able to vary how she describes what's happening in this particular moment in time. She says, oh God, I'm closing my teeth around this liquor wet lime. You know, just the way that she describes that moment is just unique. Even when she says, can we keep up with the ruse? Her word choices are very interesting. And you know, with ruse being like tricks and games, can we keep up with all these games that we're playing with each other, these tricks that we're playing on each other? But I feel like I'm actually in the party when I hear this song. That's how great it is. And I feel like in this entire album, the way Lorde writes about partying and dancing and feeling free, I mean, that's her expression, is through the movement that she feels when she's at these parties. That's when she can actually be her authentic self. Okay, so the next song we have to talk about is Homemade Dynamite. Homemade Dynamite's giving me young, it's giving me free, it's giving me reckless. Like we're gonna break shit right now. We're gonna damage things. Things are gonna get broken. There's gonna be explosions, yada yada yada. That's what I'm getting from the song. It's just that moment, you know, when you're with your friends and everybody's on the same level as you, everybody's on the same wavelength as you. And I love it because it says homemade dynamite. It's not just blowing up dynamite, it's blowing up homemade dynamite. They're just creating this mess themselves. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know if they made it correctly. You know, that metaphor of the homemade dynamite just kind of embodies that spirit of adolescence where you're just going with the flow. You know, you're creating an explosion and you don't know if you're doing it right because it's all homemade, it's all DIY. It's that kind of vibe. And I think the imagery that she uses in this song is some of the best on the album. And I love the beginning of the song where she kind of describes this experience of meeting someone that has kind of the same quirks as she does, that I think you might be the same as me, behave abnormally. So she's getting this peak of interest and she's ready to kind of go on this experience with this person. Might get your friend to drive, but he can hardly see. Will end up painted on the road, red and chrome, all the broken glass sparkling. I guess we're partying. I mean, the imagery in that is you could use that as an example for why imagery is so important and why being as descriptive as you can, colors, sounds, sights, that's all in there, right? The glass sparkling, and also writing about things from a different angle, you know, writing things in a backwards way. Instead of saying the glass was broken onto the road, it's like the road is containing the glass. You know, the way that she structures her words is different. We'll end up painted on the road. That is the image of that. Imagery is so important in writing. Imagery is one of the most important techniques you can use in your writing. And it's not that hard to do. Here's the thing about Melodrama. She's not talking about anything that crazy. She's talking about adolescence, going to parties, having a crush, going through your first heartbreak, finding yourself. But through this entire album, there's no cliches in here. And that takes a lot of effort. I mean, you really have to try to do that. You have to be like, how can I write about this in a different way? And you don't want it to be forced. And you also don't want it to be too flowery, because you have to relate to your mainstream audience. People have to be able to listen to this album and know what you're talking about it. So you don't want to push it to the point where you're using all of this elaborate language. But at the same time, you want to push yourself as a writer to create a vision in people's minds that isn't what they normally have heard before. It's like, oh, we went wild. Oh, we could have gotten messed up. That's not in the song. We'll end up painted on the road, red and chrome, all the broken glass sparkling. I guess we're partying. I just, like, how did she even come up with that? That's just so interesting. That's the word that I want to use. The writing is interesting. It's an album that you can go back to and enjoy, because you're like, that sounds interesting. That doesn't sound like every party song in the world. Of course, the idea of blowing shit up, that is a little bit standard and typical, but you have to have that starting point of something that's relatable. You know, blowing shit up, that is kind of like cliche, you know, going to a party, like, yeah, we're gonna blow shit up. But the way that she writes about it in each stanza is different. It's this element of like party or die. You know, it's like, we're either gonna party or we're gonna die, so we might as well party. It's that kind of thing, that contrast, and I love that because it's just fun. The song is just fun. I'll give you my ranking. I'm not gonna tell you too much. It's not on the top. It's not on the top. It's not on the top. But it has some really immaculate writing, so love it. The other element that she uses in this album is onomatopoeia, when she says blowing shit up like the dynamite. So that's kind of mimicking that sound of the explosion when she goes that the sound of the explosion starting to happen. Next, we're going to talk about the Louvre. We're getting a different energy in this song. This song is definitely giving me a different energy. For me, when I hear this song, I feel like I'm being pushed into a montage. When I bring back that coming of age movie that I was talking about, this is the part of the movie where two people are in love and nothing is happening as far as in the script, but there's a lot of scenes happening and it's kind of being montaged together, and you're just watching all of these moments speed on by, and it's the love. It's the love happening. They're in love and we're just getting the montage. We're just getting the montage. They're sleeping together. They're in love. They're in lust. It's not really love though. It's like the infatuation phase. And this is the part of the movie where there's just scenes, you know? There's an obsession with each other. There's skin to skin contact. It's the lust. It's the lust. Everything, you feel like you're with the most important person in your entire life. And she uses the metaphor of being in the Louvre as describing this relationship. It's like she feels like it's special. Maybe it's not the most special relationship in the world. Maybe it's not going to be the main painting in the Louvre, but we're still in the Louvre, right? I love, love, love the writing in the song. This is some of the best writing. I know I'm going to say that throughout the entire video, But she says, well, summer slipped us underneath her tongue. Our days and nights are perfumed with obsession. Half my wardrobe is on your bedroom floor. I love, love, love that. That personification is one of the techniques she uses here when she says summer slipped us underneath her tongue. She's describing that change of seasons here and the image of that and how that's influencing the relationship. And that's what I'm talking about when I say this song is a shift. It's a shift of energy. You know, they're together, they're enjoying each other's company, they're in love or in lust, they're in the infatuation phase, they're in the honeymoon phase, they're obsessed with each other, clothes are on the floor, they're perfumed with obsession. I love the writing on that. I love this line, drink up your movements. Love that. Movement, that theme of movement. She's drinking this man up. She's drinking every single move they make. And it just describes that wild nature of obsessive insatiability that you have for your partner, especially in the early stages where you've never felt those emotions before and you're feeling them for the first time. And the lyrics that she uses to describe this particular moment in time. And in the context of the album, it feels like we're just being taken through that story. You know, we're seeing how this relationship kind of came to fruition. So we went from the beginning, green light, sober, homemade dynamite. Then we got a shift when we went into the Louvre. And now we're at liability because now we are going to be taken through her personal journey as this relationship is crumbling. And she's realizing that she has a lot of questions. And this isn't about just a relationship. I wanted to emphasize that. This album is not just about a relationship. The relationship is at the center of the album, but she also is exploring friendship dynamics. She's partying with other people. She has her friends in this album as well. I apologize, I didn't mention that. What's really interesting is that typically when you get into a relationship when you're young, you kind of lose yourself in the relationship. Sometimes you even take on the personality of the person that you're with because you don't really have a strong sense of self. This song is talking about something really interesting and really unique. Lorde does have a strong sense of self. She's always been eccentric. She's always had a unique personality, and she always brings that into whatever space or whatever dynamic she's in. And so she gets into this relationship, she falls in love, and she has this breakup. And it's not necessarily that what typically happens where you question who you are. It's the fact that she questions if who she is enough, if who she is acceptable for the society that she lives in, if her authentic self will ever be a match for anybody in the world, not even just a partner. Has kind of an identity crisis, not in not knowing who she is, but in a different way, knowing who she is and questioning if that's going to be a problem, because she's been told by people that you're a little too much for me. You know, being herself is considered too much. And I think a lot of people that have more eccentric personalities or maybe are neurodivergent can really relate to this song, because it's like we've all that experience, that type of personality, have had that moment where we're like, I guess I just have to conform. You know, I guess in order to make it in this world, I have to not be different. Like this entire time I've been being myself and I've been suffering the consequences for it. That's, dang, I just got emotional thinking about that, because I think for me, there's a lot of weight there when I think about that song. I've always kind of been a bit of an outsider. You know, I don't fit into what people think I should act like or what I think people think I should be. I moved around a lot as a kid. My upbringing was a little different. I was made fun of for the way I talked. I was told that the things I liked were considered things that people that don't look like me should like. Like, I'm not supposed to like this kind of music or this kind of thing because, you know, I look the way that I look. Or I'm not supposed to be this way, or I'm not supposed to be that way. And that sucked. And I feel like this song, that's when you can relate to it. It's when you've had that experience. Am I going to find someone that matches who I really am, or am I going to have to put on a mask? And I feel like that's the question that's being asked. She uses this really great metaphor to describe this feeling when she says, the truth is, I am a toy that people enjoy until the tricks don't work anymore. Then they get bored of me. I mean, it's just, your heart drops when you hear that line. You know, she stretches out words with her delivery to make a point. It really adds this element to it, adds another layer of emotion. So I wrote that it's honest and raw, which I really agree with. I think this is the most vulnerable song on the album. I will be honest, like when I first heard this song, I didn't necessarily connect to it on the first listen, but it's grown with me and my life experiences. So of course, really great poetic elements that this song uses is the imagery that's being created, the metaphors that are being used, the journey through seeking self-acceptance. But I like the fact that this song is really honest, that journey of becoming your own friend is not easy. You know, we see a lot of memes and we see a lot of self-help quotes that make it seem like it's easy to be your own friend, but it's actually a really difficult journey and you have to make that choice every single day. And I feel like in this particular song, using that third person, she's kind of showcasing how she's roughing through this journey. It's not easy all the time. It's not an easy decision. It's not like you wake up and say, I'm going to love who I am, and it happens overnight. She has to have the day where she's slow dancing in the living room, you know, having an emotional moment. It's not always a happy, enjoyable experience. So one of the elements that Lorde is using stylistically, where she refers to herself in third person, but we all pretty much know that she is referring to herself in this stanza, but she's making that choice stylistically to promote the message that she's trying to create in the song. And it kind of creates this separation. Next we have Hard Feelings, Loveless, which we all know that I really enjoyed because I had a little dance party in the beginning of this video. For me, this song is an anthem. That's what I wrote. It feels like a new chapter in the album. I would agree with that. Well, I wrote it, obviously I agree with that. But I would agree with that. Like, I feel like, and tell me if you agree, but I feel like there's definitely another shift happening where we go, like, Liability is the climax of the album because it's kind of like this self-awareness, this pivotal self-awareness. It's like every song before Liability was almost like escaping the real feelings, the real emotions. But then when we get into Hard Feelings and Loveless, it almost feels like a new chapter, like a new beginning, just accepting that you're going through this experience, you know, that kind of thing. Kind of taking an inside look into society as a whole when it comes to relationships and love and all of that kind of thing. I also wrote, it's the moment where the light appears after the relationship. You're not quite over it yet, but you're moving forward. You're also ready to be reckless. I really love this song because when it came out, I really felt like I related to it because I was on the apps, I was trying to go out, I was trying to date, and I was kind of just exhausted by dating in society that we live in. This is what I wrote. It's like the beautiful moments of self-care and choosing to move forward with pain in your heart. It's choosing self-care, but also choosing to move forward with pain in your heart. And putting yourself out there, having fun, but also playing games, and you're not necessarily in the right place to start dating yet, but you're gonna try anyway. It's like that phase. It's a transition phase. And I love when she says, guess this is the winter, our bodies are young and blue. You know, it's that season of heartbreak. She's accepting that she's in that season of heartbreak. And in comparison to the song, The Louvre, where she talks about the lust and drinking up his movements, this is kind of a stark contrast, right? Our bodies are young and blue. Now they're kind of having this experience of coldness and sadness, blue symbolizing sadness. My favorite lyrics in the song are, bet you want to rip my heart out. Bet you want to skip my calls now. Well, guess what? I'd like that. It's like that INDEPEND moment of the relationship, of leaving the relationship, where you're kind of just owning who you are and saying, hey, you're gonna miss what you had, you know? Then we go into Sober 2, which is a slowed down version of Sober. Love this one. It's definitely more melancholy. I feel like this is the day after Sober. So Sober is day 1, Sober 2 is day 2. The morning after, now we gotta clean up the dishes. Now you gotta clean up the champagne glasses. what I will say about her vocal delivery in the song, it's very angry. There's a lot of rage. She normally has kind of a raspier voice, but it's very raspy in the song. It sounds angry. It sounds visceral. It's just like, ugh. You know, I love it. I love her vocal delivery on this song. In this particular song, it's also very frantic, I wrote as well. All the glamour and the trauma and the effing melodrama, all the gunfights and the limelights and the holy, sick, divine nights. Whoa. They'll talk about us, all the lovers. They'll talk about us and discover how we kissed and killed each other. I love that play. Kiss, instead of saying kiss and tell, she says kiss and killed. I love that because that's what the entire album is really talking about, is like the beginning and the destruction of this relationship. I also wrote that I feel like this is a reference to the album as a whole. It's recognizing the theme of everything that has happened so far. She is going to tell us how they kissed and killed each other. And I feel like maybe that's a reference to her writing, you know? Like this album is that revelation. This album is showing how they kissed and killed each other. It's lifting the curtain in a way. Then we have Brighter in the Dark, which definitely is another highlight for me. To me, this is the most powerful song lyrically on the album. I just feel like there's so many good lyrics in this song. And for me as a writer, I really relate to it because I always take any really painful experience I have and I write about it. And sometimes it's like, it's almost like an act of revenge, or it's almost like me turning something negative into something positive. So it's almost like I'm getting control over an experience and I'm turning it into my benefit. And so there is something like, you're gonna regret it because I'm a writer and I can turn this into something beautiful. And maybe that's something that whoever I'm with, they can't do that. They don't have that power. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in a relationship and it's ended and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write a poem about this and I'm gonna go through my nights of like writing this whole experience out, and I'll perform that poem on stage and people will really like it. And it's such like gaining my power back moment that I was able to turn this into art, something that people can enjoy and consume. And it's not even a part of me anymore. Now it's become this like entire different entity, you know? And I think that's really beautiful. I love this part where she says, I am my mother's child. I'll love you till my breathing stops. I'll love you till you call the cops on me. But in our darkest hours, I stumbled on a secret power. I'll find a way to be without you, babe. She recognizes her strength, and that's so beautiful. It's like, but she also recognizes how deep her love goes. You know, but that's what makes her a good writer. She has this extreme ability to feel her full range of emotion and express that in words. You know, she's really kind of identifying that she has a powerful process of healing. So then we go to Supercut. When a relationship is over, it's been a while, and every time you think about that relationship, it's always like the highlight moments. It's always the best moments. It's like when somebody dies, you always think about the best memories. A breakup can be kind of like that too. It's like you're always thinking about the best parts of the relationship. And what's sad about it is when you think about the best parts of the relationship, you start to wonder, like, is there anything I could have done differently? And she talks about, so I fall into continents and cars, all the stages and the stars. This is definitely referencing her fame. She's also having some reflection of when you go through these memories in your head about the good moments. It's like, could I have done something different? And you start to have these visions of yourself being this perfect girlfriend. You know, could in my head, I do everything right. When you call, I'll forgive and not fight. You know, you start to blame yourself. You start to think like, I could have not been angry that one time. I could have saved it. You know, you start to think about the Supercut version and if it could have lasted. And I really love that concept. And I love that she uses that Supercut metaphor. So then we got Liability Reprise, where we kind of revisit the song here. And I love this song because it's kind of her accepting that she's not a liability, you know, and somebody out there will accept her for who she is. And that's why I say this album is very much like a movie. You know, we get these endings and conclusions, and we get this healing that happens. We get the full journey. We get the full emotional journey. And we get that satisfaction. It's not just random songs thrown into an album. We get to feel someone's emotional journey, their coming of age moment, just like any coming of age experience. Is you have this self-actualization, this gaining of self-worth, and you become your own again. That's the whole journey of coming of age, is becoming who you are. It's not about changing yourself. It's about finding yourself and becoming your authentic self. Then we get into Perfect Places. I feel like the song is acknowledging her age, her freedom. She's young, carefree, she can have fun. She says this beautiful line, I really love it. I'm 19 and I'm on fire, but when we're dancing, I'm all right. It's just another graceless night. You know, that line, that word usage, graceless, that just describes how she recognizes that she's young. She doesn't have poise yet. She's graceless. She's clumsy. You know, there's all that imagery happening here that really play into this narrative that she's creating throughout this entire album, that this is a very adolescent experience and she's aware of it. And bringing it back to that first theme, she's accepting her melodrama. She's accepting this moment that she is in life. And that's why I love this album so much, because it just takes me to that place, and it captures youth in such an epic way. Perfect Places, I feel like it's a travel song. It's talking about her life on tour. Let's kiss and then take off our clothes. It's just another graceless night. She's touching on hookup culture again in the song, touching on being young. Perfect end track, because it's kind of like, once again, that acceptance of who she is, where she is in life. And I love that she has this album, because I feel like she can go back to this album and remember that state of being that she was in. And it feels very, very like hugging your young self and saying it's okay, but doing it at the moment that you're young. You know, I don't know if many people have had this experience, but I definitely have. When I was like 21 or 22, I just knew I was young. You know what I mean? Some people don't know until they're older, like, oh my gosh, I wish I knew how young I was. I knew. You know what I mean? I knew. I remember having moments when I was 19, 20, 21, just entering adulthood, being like, wow, I'm young and I'm never gonna be this way again. I'm never gonna feel this dramatic. I'm never gonna have these experiences. These feel so new to me. Like, I felt that feeling of, wow, I'm young. I'm not going to be this way forever. This is such a beautiful moment. Like, I want to enjoy every second of this. Like, I need to go out. I need to do this while I'm young, you know? And it's not like I'm running out of time type of thing. It's not that it wasn't like I was afraid of getting older. I had that too, but that's a separate emotion. It was just like, I'm young, I'm free. Like, this is never going to happen again. And being around people that are just as young as you and having these like collective experiences. And I feel like ultimately Melodrama really captures that. Okay, so time for my song ranking. What are my top 5 favorite songs on Melodrama? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to tell you right now. Number 5 is Liability. Number 4 is Loveless, Hard Feelings. I always have fun with that song. Number 3 is Supercut. I love using Supercut as a metaphor for a relationship. Number 2, Writer in the Dark. Love, love, love that as a writer. Probably one of the most relatable songs. She also has this beautiful acoustic version that I absolutely adore, that pings my heart. Absolutely love that song. And number 1 is Sober. I just think from a production standpoint, from a lyric standpoint, there's so many elements in there that just grab you. The part where she talks about Jack and Jill gets possessive when it gets dark. I mean, that's just an iconic moment in a song. It's something that I'm sure in concert, the whole crowd goes crazy with that. And I just think this is a perfect song. I just think from a production standpoint, it's so unique, it's so different, it's so enticing. It has this frantic energy, so that has to be my number 1 song in the album. But close second is definitely Writer in the Dark. Those are definitely my top 2 on the album, but that's my top 5. And I will say I listen to Perfect Places probably the least, and also Greenlight, so maybe that would be like 10 and 9. But I'm not gonna rank the rest. That's my top 5. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I want to hear what y'all have to say about this album. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I really enjoyed making this video, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. Bye.